Hey, this is David with Heartbeat Artistry. I've had a few questions on how to replace a fall on a nylon cow whip, and I thought, well, it's a pretty easy procedure. Maybe I'll make a quick video and show you how to do it. So I'm going to get some scraps out of the way. A few things that I use to do it with, obviously scissors, handy dandy yardstick, a couple of pieces of paracord. One I measure somewhere around 40 inches. Depends on how long of a fall you want. In this case, I'm going to look for a final end result of around a 30-inch fall. So what I do is I'll use a piece that's around 18 to 20 inches for the core, and I'll core it after it's actually attached. And then one that's between 30 and 40. 30 if I'm looking for an 18 to 24-inch fall. 40 if I'm looking for a 30-inch fall. 28 to 30-inch fall, somewhere in there. And quite honestly, it's a very simple procedure. First thing you do, like I said, once you've got your cord cut, your inner strands pulled out on your cord, cut to the length you want it. The knot's always going to have a spot that's a little bit on the flatter side. At least mine do. I tie them that way, so I have a flatter side that I can lay the cord against. And then what I do is I just wrap around my finger with that cord around the inside. I hope you can see this all right. Anywhere you can make the knot bigger or smaller as much as you desire. I generally do anywhere between 3 and 6 times around, depending on how big of a knot I want. In this case, I'm going to go with 4, and then you're going to lace it back where your finger was. Just pull it right up through there, and now you're going to sort of twist it. You're going to twist that cord like that. Work it up a little bit. Because as you twist the knot so that the loops get bigger on the bottom, that bottom strand is what's coming out and becoming your fall. You see that there. And so once you get a little closer, you can start pulling on that bottom strand as well. You rotate, pull it out through, rotate, pull it up through, and just get it nice and snug. Just like that. Knot won't slide past there. So you're right here. And now, with that knot tied on, we got about 30, 34, 35 inches. And so what you're going to do, take your second piece. In this case, I think I'm going to go with right around 18 inches, give or take here. It can be frayed on one end, that's okay. On the other end, what I do is I take and I cut it at a sharp angle, like that. I'll show you why in a second. You take your lighter, you're going to melt that end a little bit. I suppose not everybody's fingers are made of asbestos, but I don't know, it doesn't bother me. The heat's not so bad. Kind of shape it so you have an end that's sort of conical. And I tend to press it down a little bit on the tip so that it's not just too skinny. Then you take this lacing needle. It's actually, if you can see it, I don't know if you can, it's got threads on the inside there. So what you do is you just slide it on where you just cut. Get those threads to grab. Doesn't feel like it's grabbing real good. Let me come back here. Sometimes if you got a little bit too much melted on the side there, what you can do is come back through and snip off that extra harder spot. One, that way those burrs won't catch on the inside, and two, if it's not going all the way on like it feels like it should, then you can get that knot out of the way and it won't grab and interfere with you lacing that or putting that needle on the piece of cord. So then what you're going to do is you're going to lace it through and just go right up into that fall. If you notice, when I do this, I'll push it through a few, and then I'll periodically pull it down a little further, little by little. That way you're not putting all the tension of the cord pulling in against that, all that friction, against that threaded against that threaded inside of the lacing needle, because otherwise you don't want to have it pop out when it's halfway pulled in. Otherwise you got to pull it off and potentially even start the whole thing over again. And if it's all the way in on the end there, and you lose your needle, then you might have to take the whole thing out and just replace the whole fall again. So once you get to the end, you work that as close to that knot as you can, and then you wiggle it back and forth a little bit, and the needle will pop right out the end. And what I like to do is actually pull it out so that this knot that you put on there, that kind of melted conical section, starts to stick out a little bit. What you can do then, presuming you can see me here, let me make sure, is when you go back to measure, you can measure and see how much length you have. The reason I like to do that is when you put that second strand inside there, as this expands here, it actually contracts the long way to make up for that change in tension, and so subsequently it actually shortens quite a bit, so that what was it, 34 give or take, I think 35 inch strand that was hanging off the end from this knot is now down to 31, and that's all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unscrew this needle right off the end here. I'm going to take and I'm going to clip this little knot off right up. Whoa! Everybody still there? Didn't lose the camera. Okay, good. Clip it right off at the end here. And then what you do is you hold it here, and then you shimmy that red cord back up, and you see that pulls right back in there. Now that goes right up to the knot, so you have a nice flexible hinge, but you have a nice reinforced fall. So you're going to cut it to length at, in this case, 30 inches. You're going to take your handy dandy lighter, pinch it together a little bit. And then, everybody's favorite part, tying on your popper. It's actually really a piece of cake. You got your twisted popper. I like to use polypropylene. It doesn't tangle as much for me. What you're going to do is you're going to twist it so you get a little opening. Of course, I say this is the easy part, right? And I can't get it to untwist. What I do is I kind of go a little further up from the end. That way I can get it to open a little easier. Then I'll hold it like this, and I'll just roll it, or twist it. Twist the whole popper until it works its way down to the end of the twist. Come out about, you know what, somewhere between an eighth and a quarter of an inch, give or take. Then I fold it over here like this. Tuck your popper back in. And your popper's on. When you go to change your popper, if you can't get it to just slide off, one of the things that I find works real well, if you can't get it to just, if you can't just pull it off because it's been if you crack that whip a bunch of times, it gets real tight and kind of worked on there tight. One thing I find works real well, if you can't get it to just pull off, is to just take a pair of fingernail clippers. You can a lot of times just go in with a fingernail clipper and clip it. Even if it's down to one strand, and then you can wiggle a little wire or something under there and then pull it loose. And make sure that if you get anything fraying on the end of this fall, that you take your lighter and you make sure and seal those frayed areas back up. That way your fall doesn't start to disintegrate. You'll get a lot more life out of your fall that way. But there you have how to change. Oh, wait, I missed a spot. The other thing you got to do, cut this off as long as you want this little strand here. And then the same thing. Just melt it, shape it a little bit. Careful not to burn your twist, your tapered twist here. But there you have it. It's how you tie fall onto a cow whip. This is David with Heartbeat Artistry, signing off.